The story of Brazil and Mexico independence tonight on the 7-Minute Show.
I am Jonathan.
I am Cass.
I am Liz.
I am Victor.
Independence of Brazil is comprised of a series of political events that occurred in 1821 through 1824, most of which involved disputes between Brazil and Portugal regarding the call for independence presented by the Brazilian Empire. On September 16, 1810, a progressive priest named Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla became the father of Mexican independence with a historic proclamation urging his fellow Mexicans to take up arms against the Spanish government. Hidalgo's declaration launched a decade-long struggle that ended 300 years of colonial rule and established an independent Mexico.
Brazilian independence. How it started was Napoleon's invasions causes the monarchs of Portugal and their family to move to Brazil. Napoleon threatened Portugal, so the monarchy felt threatened, so they ran a raid to their only colonization, Brazil. In 1821, Napoleon was defeated, so Jonah goes back to Portugal, leaving his son Pedro I. Pedro I is a good boy and brings higher education, army, and better economy. Brazil didn't like Pedro, so they rejected him, and Pedro left his son. Pedro II was in charge. He ruled autocratic, and senators appointed him for life.
During the 17th century, the Prince of Portugal was ordered to take control out of Brazil. In 1820, Portugal experienced a constitutional revolution, which was initiated by liberal constitutionalists. This revolution led to a meeting, and eventually a decision was made to create the first constitution of the kingdom. At the time, military officers in Brazil sided with the constitutionalists in Portugal. The head of the military forced to dismiss the banishment of the ministers of the kingdom. Because of this situation, the prince felt manipulated and swore to never give in to military manipulation. In 1821, provincial governments were subordinated to Portugal, causing Prince Pedro to become governor of Rio de Janeiro. Then Prince Pedro was ordered to return to Portugal due to some problems. The movement of Pedro enraged the Brazilian inhabitants. The enraged inhabitants then created uprisings, which were the Bonifacians, led by Bonifacio de Andrade, and the liberals, who were supported by Freemasons and led by Joaquim Goncalves, both of which were united because they wanted to keep Brazil united with Portugal as a sovereign monarchy. Eventually, Prince Pedro became less attached to Portugal and shifted his attention to Brazil. Pedro stood near the Iparanga River, tore his Portuguese symbol from his uniform, and said, "By my blood, by my honor, and by God, I will make Brazil free." And just like that, without bloodshed, Brazil became independent. The last Portuguese soldiers left in Brazil in 1824. A peace treaty recognizing Brazil's independence was drafted in summer of 1825 and signed by Brazil and Portugal that autumn.
In short, in spite of some French culture influence, Brazilian independence had relatively little to do with the ideas of the French Revolution, except insofar as the Portuguese monarchy moved to Brazil when Napoleon conquered Portugal. French ideas were far more significant in other Latin American independence movements.
The land that is now Mexico fell into Spanish hands in August 1521 when Hernán Cortés and his army toppled the Aztec Empire. There was 3 centuries of colonial rule. On September 16, 1810, Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, a respected Catholic priest, issued a passionate rally cry known as the Grito de Dolores, Cry of Dolores, that amounted to a declaration of war against the colonial government. The Grito called for the end of Spanish rule in Mexico, the redistribution of land, and a concept that the Criollos' earlier plans had deliberately omitted: racial equality. Though a Criollo himself, Hidalgo extended his call to arms to mestizos and people of indigenous descent. Their significant contribution of manpower changed the tenor of the revolt. Hidalgo led his growing militia from village to village en route to Mexico City, leaving in their wake a bloodbath that he later came to deeply regret. Defeated at Calderón in January 1811, Hidalgo fled north, but was captured and executed by firing squad in Chihuahua. Sadly, Miguel Hidalgo died, but we do have his last interview with him.
First and foremost, what irked you the most? What caused you to begin the rebellion, and why?
It was too much for me to bear with. I gave the speech of Dolores and everything went on from there.
At what point did you believe action should be taken?
When social injustice, forced labor, and discrimination towards criollos, mestizos, and Indians began to get out of control.
Was there anything you wish had gone different? If so, why?
Once again, the killing and the brutality. I wish no blood had been involved. I never intended anyone to get hurt.
Other interviews showed that the date of the rebellion was pushed forward. Why did you do this?
Pushing the rebellion forward gave me the advantage of throwing off rumors that were roaming throughout the towns.
What were you feeling through all this commotion?
I was excited and melancholy. All my soldiers' death brought distress and anger to my entire army and me. This motivated everyone to continue fighting.
Did you, being the priest, affect the way you ran the rebellion?
Yes, all actions taken by me were strategically set and done with the consent of our God.
Do you have a problem accepting the term the father of our nation?
Yes, I wasn't the only one that contributed to my country's independence. Therefore, I shouldn't be the only one awarded with the honorable title.
Conspiracy has been circling the air and there must be some clarification. Did you host a gathering at your house secretly, trying to overthrow the Spanish crown? If so, why?
Yes, I held a gathering in private for the sake of my people's safety. Had the meeting been public, the Spaniards would have killed anyone involved in it, including me.
Others took the helm of the rebellion, including Jose Marie Moriz y Pavon Marie Matamoros and Vincent Guerrero, who all led armies of indigenous and racially mixed revolutionaries against the Spanish royalists. It still dragged on until 1821, when the Treaty of Cordoba established Mexico as an independent constitutional monarchy under Augusto de Iturbide. Just 18 months later, the Republican insurgents Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna and Guadalupe Victoria ousted the emperor and established the first Mexican Republic.
The Enlightenment influenced the Mexican Revolution by spreading philosophies such as those of John Locke, as well as arts and science, to further develop the empire.
Independence Day of Brazil is a national holiday observed in Brazil on September 7 of every year. The date celebrates Brazil's declaration of independence from the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves on September 7, 1822. Although September 16, 1810 marked the beginning of Mexico's struggle for independence, the anniversary of the Grito de Dolores has been a day of celebration across Mexico since the 19th century. The holiday begins on the evening of September 15 and September 16.